Well, when the St. Louis Cardinals said they're going into youth movement this offseason, we didn't necessarily expect they meant giving them opportunities in the arbitration process, but that's where we're at right now as the Cardinals continue to not really want to spend a lot of money this offseason. What do we need to make a big deal about these arbitration battles or not? Like, we'll discuss that today, but we'll also give some opinions on some of these Nolan Arenado trade updates. What on earth is going on with him? Is he going to be a Cardinal? Is he going to be a Red Sox? Is he going to go somewhere else? And just kind of what to make of the Cardinals' interest this offseason. Clearly, they want to do some more than what they've done already, but they're kind of stalled up on Arenado. We'll talk about all this and more on this episode of Dealin the Cards. Welcome back into Dealin the Cards. My name's Josh. This is Andrew. I always do the wrong direction. It's okay, though. We are two of the hosts of Dealin the Cards, St. Louis Cardinals podcast on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you can get your podcast. So if you're listening on audio, we appreciate it. Subscribe, rate the show, helps out a ton. But if you're watching on YouTube, smash the subscribe button, the like button. Again, helps the channel a ton. Comment helps other people see, and we also lets us to engage in the conversation with you. We try to go back through the comments and respond as we can. We really appreciate all the support as always. We do want to thank a couple sponsors off the top of the podcast that help make this show possible. And the first is 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're located at 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet, and they're open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 on Saturdays, where you can buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards, including a Nolan Gorman Shohei Ohtani card that Andrew has snagged. Andrew, you want to give him your comment about how Nolan Gorman should be proud to be on that card?
Yeah, Nolan Gorman is not going to be on a more relevant card because he's going to strike out 45%. No, I'm kidding. Hopefully he doesn't. But
oh man. Yeah. Well, if you want cards like that or packs, boxes, local players around the league, stars around the league, baseball, football, Pokemon, F1, all kinds of things, or even the other sports memorabilia, go check out 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're great, and we know many of you already shopped there already, so let them know if we've sent you. And then we also want to thank another partner for podcast, which is Underdog Fantasy. They're our favorite place to play fantasy. You can now play in Missouri and Illinois. Multiple playoff games going on today. Obviously, the college football championship is on next Monday. NBA, baseball's around the corner. You got to check out Underdog Sports. They have a pick 'em, and it's so easy to play. You pick 2 to 8 stats, and you say if your player will go higher or lower on them. You can win up to 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. If that sounds like fun, sign up with our promo code CARDS to claim your first free deposit or pick 'em and a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries. Sandy does a lot of college basketball pick-ems on there. I don't know anything about college basketball, so I cannot help with that. But yeah, they're a really fun place to play. I know many of you have already used our promo code, but yeah, use it for cards for first no risk, first free pick, and then a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So with that all that out of the way, speaking of putting money on the line, the Cardinals were able to, on Thursday, I believe, come to settlements with John King, JoJo Romero, and Ryan Helsley. On the Helsley front specifically, that's really great because we know that him and the Cardinals have not had the best time in arbitration. But then as this youth movement's starting, looks like Brendan Donovan, Lars Nootbaar, and Andre Pallante will be going to arbitration. A couple things to note off the top, which I think are really important. First, let's get the joke out of the way. Andrew, I'm going to do it. I'm going to throw it up here. On audio, I'll read it for you too. But Nerds on the Bat, great follow on Twitter. Put this out there. I think it's incredible. He said the front office message that we want to give young guys opportunities apparently includes the opportunity to go through the arbitration process. This retool is going incredibly well, folks. I thought that was gold. So when I saw it, I was like, that's top tier content. A couple things to know about the arbitration process, then we can talk about how much it matters or not is, first of all, like we saw Tommy Edman last year, just because you exchange numbers doesn't mean you can't come to an agreement between now and arbitration. So if the Cardinals want to settle on a 1-year deal with Donovan, Nootbaar, or Pallante before their arbitration hearing, they can do it. They can also do a multi-year deal like they did with Tommy Edman. And then the second note, which I thought was really great from Derek Gould and some on Twitter, was that teams don't necessarily know and players don't necessarily know what the other side is going to submit in arbitration. Both sides submit what they think they can defend and what they can win. So the number that Donovan and the Cardinals were talking about could be different than the number that he submitted in arbitration, because he thinks, well, if we're going to go to court, I might be able to get this much. So even though I was willing to settle for this, I'm going to go for what I can in arbitration. And it's a business. Some players take it perfectly fine. Others, like the Ryan Helsley situation, part of the Cardinals' defense of their number was things that frustrated Ryan Helsley, and it can make a really difficult situation. And so I don't think anyone loves the idea of going to arbitration, but here we are right now, potentially situated. But I just laid the landscape there. Andrew, when you first initially saw the results and kind of where things are headed right now, did you think it was a big deal? Like, does it matter all that much? And if so, what worries do you have?
I mean, it's kind of telling that the three most important players for this team going forward, I think in the future, are all going to arbitration. Like Ryan Helsley is probably the best out of the bunch that's arbitration eligible, but like he's probably not going to be on the team come 2026.
And they did settle with him, so he's not doing arbitration.
Like that's fine. That's whatever. I guess now we know how much he's going to be paid in 2025, and it could lead to like a trade more easily happening or something like that. But I definitely think it's concerning that they're like fighting with some of these players over like $500K. Like I think the total amount was like 1.2 million between all three of those players, and it's really not that much when you consider how much they're going to be spending on, like, say, a Kyle Gibson or a reliever that they're going to add later on this offseason. And for these guys who are going to be such a critical part of your future, right? Pallante is the first like legit starting pitcher you've developed in years. Mm-hmm. Lars Nootbaar and Brendan Donovan are supposed to be two of those players that you're relying on to carry this team into next year. And it's pretty frustrating because like you've seen what this arbitration process has done to guys like Tyler O'Neill. And I don't know if these guys are going to have similar outcomes like that. And there could be a case where Tommy Edman last year got that 2-year extension buyout for his arbitration years, and he never played. But that's a completely different story. But there could be something in the works with Donovan. There were some reports that was happening, and then there were some reports that was not happening, and I'm not really sure what to go off of for that. But Nootbaar also, I think there was a report that they were not close on an extension, but they were like somewhat interested in an extension.
Same with Donovan.
I don't know. There's a lot of rumors floating around. It's difficult to tell what's real and what's not at this point on Twitter. But yeah, I think it's possible that something gets worked out. But I think if you're gonna like quarrel with the players over that little amount of money for the DeWitts, then it's really, really frustrating because you've seen what this process has done to some of your other players, and it's just not a great start to what should be a year where you let these guys get a lot of opportunities and show what they are.
Yeah, I think overall, like I tweeted out about it, especially the specific like difference in numbers. I don't think it's a huge deal because of the fact, again, they can come to a resolution in the next couple weeks or month. I think it's probably about a month until their hearings. I'm not totally sure. And it's something, it's a team policy. It's something they've had. Pretty much every team around the league has guys go to arbitration. This is nothing new. Like if you look on go to like Robert Murray or go to Mark Feinstein or anyone who's reporting arbitration exchange numbers from other teams, and every fan base is like, oh my gosh, why is there $200K difference between these players? And I think Derek Gould's note yesterday was really helpful of, like, they didn't sit at the table and say like Cardinals said 1.1 million and or 2.1 million and Donovan said 1.9, and they stared at each other in the face and they're like, yep, we can't come to an agreement. They both submitted these numbers anonymously. I hate arbitration. I think it's dumb. I think they should totally rework the system. There's got to be a better way to do it that's merit-based, that doesn't make the teams have to go to fight one another on this. And again, sometimes it's a pretty smooth process and other times it's messy, like Tyler O'Neill and Ryan Helsley's has been in the past. I think the part that really threw people off was John Denton's reporting during the day of basically right in the morning. He's like, oh, like Cardinals and Donovan are close on an extension. And then minutes later is like, correction, they are probably not going to come to an extension today. And then later in the day, he said they never even discussed one. And it was like, what? It's like literally like the pendulum swing in one day was wild. I did try to check out KD Wu and Derek Gould's reporting on it, and Gould at least indicated that before the offseason began, both Donovan and the Cardinals had expressed interest in a long-term deal. And so I do think there's interest there from both sides. I don't think it's quite what Denton said. I mean, maybe they haven't discussed it officially, but I don't think like some people are like, oh, see, the Cardinals don't want to keep Donovan, and like, why are we surprised? And it's like, well, okay. If the Cardinals weren't planning on keeping Donovan long term, I think he'd be a Seattle Mariner right now. Like there are other teams in baseball who've been trying to pry Donovan from them for so long that I don't think they would have kept holding on to him. Which is anyway. So that reporting, all that was all over the place. Whatever. I do think it's notable, and people have noted this. And I get why it still frustrates me that when you're cutting down spending this much, that you don't shrewdly use some of that that salary to go extend young players on team friendly deals now, to save money on the back end later. But Time Bloom is taking over next year, and I don't like people need like we need to wrap our head around this. Like he is not operating in a vacuum, and it's not like him and Mo don't talk about these things, and Mo doesn't make decisions without talking to Chaim Bloom about it, especially things that are going to affect them beyond 2025. Like Mo is in charge and Mo is calling the shots, but they're not letting him override Bloom on stuff. So if they're not extending Donovan right now, it's not just Tom Mozeliak, it's Chaim Bloom too. And same with Lars Nootbaar. And we got the report that they've talked. It sounds like Nootbaar and the Cardinals have talked, but whatever the number was that the Cardinals were offering Nootbaar, he didn't want to take it. Clearly, he thought he was worth more. I'm good on the Cardinals for not caving and offering him too much when he's been lack of a better word, injury prone, and his power numbers haven't quite matched up what you think he can do yet. But good on Nootbaar for betting on himself. And honestly, I love it because if Newt wants that money, that means he's going to need to stay on the field this year, and he's going to need to hit for some more power. And so I want a motivated Lars Nootbaar this year, right? And so there's a lot of encouraging things with arbitration where it causes a player to bet on themselves a little bit. Do you think, Andrew, though, that they're going to extend Nootbaar, Donovan?
I don't know if that's going to happen necessarily this offseason. I think it's probably bound to happen at some point with Donovan. I feel like that seems like a more Cardinals type of extension that they would give. They did it with Matt Carpenter. They did it with Tommy Edman, kind of, but the Dodgers just did it with Tommy Edman, which was a lot more than I thought that he was worth, but he did defer some of that. So I don't know. It just seems like the type of player that Donovan or that the Cardinals will like to have long term, and somebody that probably has more value to them than he does to other teams. I know that other teams probably want Brendan Donovan, and there are rumors that other teams have been interested, and the Cardinals don't want to give up that kind of a player. It's kind of like the reported interest the Dodgers had for like years in Tommy Edman, and they probably called the Cardinals several times that we just don't know about. And like that's probably happening with Brendan Donovan right now. And
it is. There's three players like Tommy Edman, Brendan Donovan, and Lars Nootbaar are players that teams consistently around the league call on, and the Cardinals are like, we don't want to give them up. And again, you can disagree with the Cardinals and if they overvalue them, but the fact that teams are consistently calling in the first names they bring up is, hey, could we get Donovan, Nootbaar, or was Edman? It shows you that other teams in the league think those players are valuable. And I think sometimes it's a good litmus test is like, if other teams don't want your player, it's like maybe they're not actually that good. But if other teams are like, we would love, like if the Dodgers are like, we will give Tommy Edman a 5-year extension.
They were right.
So they were right. Like Tommy Edman's a good player. And I think Donovan is, I don't get the Donovan hate sometimes. I don't get why people think he's average. I think he's great. I'm not saying he's a superstar, but he's a very good, like secondary, like third, like not like second best player on your team, but a very good, like not star, but like the next level on your team. And I think Nootbaar can kind of be in that range. He might be able to be a little bit more, but he's probably more in the Donovan range. And anyways, sorry. I just want to add that.
And like that seems like the type of build that like someone who plays multiple positions, and he's probably the ultimate utility player on that front. And it's probably going to be more affordable because out of all those players, he's the oldest. Probably won't be able to get like a massive contract elsewhere. He probably won't be able to get the Tommy Edman contract because I think they're like roughly the same age. I think Donovan's like a couple years younger, but he'll be hitting free agency in like a similar as an older player, I believe.
Donovan turns 28 sometime this year, so he'll be going on 31 when he hits free agency, or maybe even going on 32. I think going on 31 though.
So like seems like a good fit. I know Sandy's not here to talk about his Brendan Donovan propaganda and how he thinks he's going to be a future Cardinals Hall of Famer, but hey, maybe if that
I think he could be too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just like more, not like as in like he's going to be Albert Pujols good, but I think he can, I think he's a player they will keep around for a long time, and the longevity of his career can help him be a Cardinal Hall of Famer. Not like he's going to hit the heights, but like I'm trying to think of a good
like Matt Carpenter. Like I feel like Matt Carpenter is a Cardinal Hall of Famer, but he's probably like the lower tier of Cardinals Hall of Famers, and I don't know if Donovan could even hit that. But
I was gonna say Matt Carpenter is actually a pretty high bar because he finished third in MVP one time, sixth one time. Like, and I know you know that, but anyways, I think like Edgar Renteria and Matt Morris get votes for the Cardinal Hall of Fame. So like,
are they Cardinal Hall of Famers? I don't think they are.
They've been in the voting though, and I think Matt Morris is going in, and like Matt Morris is a good player, but it's like sometimes I think like we think Cardinal Hall of Famers are just like borderline Hall of Famers or Hall of Famers. Like no, sometimes
Matt Carpenter's not a Hall of Famer, but he's definitely a Cardinals.
Yeah, for sure. But like other times people are like, oh, how this? Anyways, we don't need to talk too much about Brendan Donovan being a Cardinal Hall of Famer. It's a ways away from that potentially even happening. But
I think we should probably wait for Bloom to do it to see it, like what he has, because he's still trying to acclimate to the organization, and I wouldn't say that I wouldn't rush into it just yet, because I think Donovan's probably hit his ceiling. Like I don't think he's going to become that much better of a player.
See, that's why I actually think I would like to do it now, because if you wait a little bit longer, I think the dollar figure is going to go up, I think. And then also, then you're probably having to start extending him into his mid to late 30s. And I would rather, like, if, again, I don't know what kind of numbers he'll take, but if he's willing to take like a 5-6 year deal right now, then you're getting him through age 32, 33. And if he regresses a little bit or shows signs, then he's hitting free agency at a time where it's like, okay, the back half of his career, we didn't pay for it. We're probably mostly paying for his prime, and maybe a few years that are a little bit of a decline, but not like huge decline. When if they wait and do a 5-year deal in 2 years from now or a year from now, then it's like, okay, instead of buying out age 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, you're buying out age 33 and age 34. And it's like, okay, that's where I get a little bit more worried with guys that aren't true superstars. But I also think like Donovan is clearly a leader in the clubhouse. And how many times we talked about this past year, like the Cardinals themselves are like, and Nolan Arenado and other players, like we need leaders. It's like this next generation, this next club needs guys who are going to step up and lead. And Brendan Donovan has already been a guy who's garnered the respect of veterans and young guys in the clubhouse. He's a part of the young core, but he's older than those guys, so he can truly step into that role. And he's not like, he's a good enough player that he can lead and be vocal, but also like he's not going to be the superstar, but it's not like, it's like Brendan Donovan's your leader. It's like, yeah, Brendan Donovan's one of our leaders in this clubhouse. And I think if you really want to change culture going forward, having a guy like Donovan would be a huge plus. His bat, again, is above league average, and at times has been 20% above league average. Been really good. He can play defensively all over the place. I think there's a lot of value to be found there. And I would rather, like, if, again, they're not going to do it, but I would front load the contract. If you're not going to spend a lot of payroll this year, I'd give him more money this year and have the numbers on the back end be smaller, so that by the time you do want to spend, you're not paying Donovan more and more money. You've actually taken advantage of the fact you're not paying other guys right now, and you baked in some money. Anyway, I don't trust the John Mozeliak side of it to think that way. And a lot of clubs don't do front loaded stuff, but I would, in general, you want money now instead of later. Like money today is more valuable than it is. Like $2 million today is worth more, or going to be worth more than it is 4 years from now. And so Donovan would clearly take the money today if he could. So anyways, but I do like waiting on Nootbaar. I think letting him bet on himself makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up the payroll thing. One thing I did want to talk about is I saw this like figure on Twitter that showed that the Cardinals dropped like $60-some million in payroll already. Oof. And I mean, when you look at this roster, like even if you kept Nolan Arenado, like you're one impact starting pitcher away and one like impact bat away from like legitimately contending for the division and like possibly making a run. Like I don't get why. I mean, I get why that they're cutting payroll, but I don't get why. I don't really get why they're doing it, if we're being honest, because like I know that their TV deal is still in question, and I know that fans aren't coming back. But if they had spent the $35 million on Corbin Burns, and if they and if they spent like $25 million on Teoscar Hernandez, then your payroll is the same as it was last year, and now you just have two players that are a lot better than some of the guys that you had last year. And you think about what happens in 2026 when Miles Michaelis comes off the books, and that's like what, $22 million as well, and what you could spend that on like they're not going to sign Juan Soto, nor should they at that price point. But like there's a world where they could have built a really competitive roster if they just kept payroll the same, and they're not going to do it, and that's pretty frustrating to me.
One thing I think I saw a comment here: stop paying for right-handed bats. I don't know if it was in reference to Donovan or not, but Donovan is a left-handed hitter, and so is Burleson, Nootbaar. Actually, they've done a really good job of collecting young left-handed bats. Also, Redbird Farmhands. Yes, I think like that 60 million, maybe 55 million. I think it'd be more than 5 for 55. I think like 60, 65 million is probably what you're looking at 5 years for Donovan. That's just my guess. I agree with your point that they are closer to contention than like if they just invested this year. I don't like the idea though, in a year when you know you're not one of those top teams, going out and signing huge contracts to try and make it work this year. Because what you're doing when you sign a guy like Corbin Burns, and who was the other name you threw? Oh, Teoscar Hernandez. It's like, you know that you're paying Corbin Burns in 2025 to be Corbin Burns, knowing that 6 years from now he's probably not Corbin Burns anymore. And I think they're
find 1 year guys like Walker Buehler. Santander is going to take a short-term deal. If you really want to bring back Jack Flaherty, that's maybe on the table. I don't think Mo would bring back Jack Flaherty, but there's probably another guy out there that's a similar caliber.
Yeah. Real quick. We have plenty of times called out the DeWitts for the money thing. So like, just because we didn't say it 20 times in this podcast doesn't mean we don't think it. Like, yes, like I wrote about it recently. We've talked about it. It's like, it's ownership is the reason payroll's going down right now. It's not even, it's like Mo, but it's a lot of the mistakes he's made has also led to this moment, but like, it's an intentional decision on the DeWitt family not to spend, and fans could be as upset about that as they want to be. I don't blame you. I see the reason. And I'm okay with taking a step back this year, but but the fact that they haven't done anything to really improve their future right now, outside of the investments, the player development, like they haven't traded away Ryan Helsley to get a return, right? They haven't done the Eric Fetty stuff. They haven't brought in prospects. All they've done is cut money, and that's unacceptable. And I think they wanted to do something different than that, but so far they get a failure of an offseason. A lot of it looks to ownership because their mandate was get rid of as much payroll as possible. And that doesn't help anyone except their pocketbooks. Like, no fan benefits from the fact that they spent 20 million less on their team. But my point about disagreeing about, like, I wouldn't want to sign a Corbin Burns in this offseason or a Teoscar, because I want to pay big contracts to guys when we're ready to contend, and that money's putting me over the top and putting me into that stratosphere rather than scrape by to win the NL Central. Because like the point of giving the young guys opportunities this year is like, if you sign Teoscar and you trade Arenado, well, now you're blocking. Gorham's probably DHing, I think, or Teoscar. You're blocking a few people. And I would rather, going into 2026, know what I have in those guys than still question it. And so, like, what if you don't need a corner outfielder? What if Walker and Nootbaar this year show you who they are? Then it's like, well, we signed Teoscar, but really we could use the second baseman, but now we don't have the money for it. Like, or Corbin Burns, you invest all that money in the rotation. And more so, like, you could always use more pitching, but I would rather take that huge contract and send it out in 2026, 2027, 2028 when you're like when you're pushing toward true contention than to scrape by to make the playoffs this year. Because this Corbin Burns and Teoscar makes them a better team, but it doesn't make them like a true threat in the National League. I don't think so.
I mean, maybe, but these teams can fall apart. Like the Dodgers weren't the Dodgers weren't that good going to the playoffs, and then their rotation magically clicked with 3 pitchers, and then they won the World Series. Like, that can happen to any team. Like, it's not.
Yeah, but I guess does that give you enough confidence pushing the chips in this year that you're willing to take on the potential of Teoscar falling off or Corbin Burns falling off? And it's like, well, in 2028's free agency, like, we really could have used an ace to put him over the top, but you're paying Corbin Burns $35 million to be your number 4 starter. Like, anyways, I do think this.
I mean, like, maybe not that high, but you could add like more like marginal pieces.
Yes, like, agreed.
Where like. And if it doesn't work, then you trade them at the deadline, and it's not a big deal, right? You could recoup some cost that way, and you could get lottery ticket prospects that seem to pan out more often these days than they used to. So
potentially, I think maybe like in the rotation, I would have done that, or center field. But like, I don't think you need a pretty much first base, second base, shortstop, third base, assuming Nato's gone, catcher, the corner outfield spots. I want to see what those guys have this year. I don't want to block them with anyone. Center field, you can give me the argument that acquire a good center fielder. I don't know who that is this offseason, though, outside of like Luis Robert to swing high. And then rotation, yeah, like a Jack Flaherty type, or not necessarily that name if someone's getting mad about it, but like a 1 year deal, 2 year deal, 3 year deal, the Walker Buehler thing. Like, yeah, that stuff would have been interesting, but they're not doing it. So here we are. And something that we're also not sure if they're doing or not is trading Nolan Arenado. So also, I keep seeing stop with the righty bats. They have a ton of left-handed bats right now. It's Burleson, Gorman, Nootbaar, Donovan, Scott. Like most of their like against right-handed pitching, they're very lefty heavy now. But anyways, I digress. I actually feel better about the left-handed bats than I do the right-handed bats. But
well, they should have signed anyway. Never mind.
Yeah, don't do it.
He paid for himself, Josh, through endorsement. He was free.
Oh gosh, whatever. There is a lot of frustrated comments about the DeWitts right now on our live stream. So I get it. Something else that's also equally confusing and frustrating, who knows what's going to happen again, is the Nolan Arenado thing. And every week I'm like, man, I hope this is the last episode we get to talk about it. Instead, it continues to dominate. And you know why? Not because we're just making up stuff, because like nothing else can happen, apparently, from the Cardinals' perspective. Again, they can do stuff, but they have self-imposed, basically. They haven't said this, but like that's how they're operating. Until Nato's moved, they're not doing anything. So it's like all eyes are on this situation. I think at this point we can clearly say the Dodgers are out. I don't think like the Padres are happening. It doesn't really feel like the Phillies are happening. It seems like the Yankees kind of told that, like, bowed out on their own. We did get, I'll give the one that's less, I don't think we need to talk about as much, but we did get that first thing over the weekend from John Morosi, which again, take it with a grain of salt, JP Morosi. But he did say that over the last 24 hours that day, that Nato is more open to going to teams like potentially the Tigers or the Mariners. Okay, sure, maybe. Jeff Jones said that the Royals have called on Nato before at the winter meeting, so that's interesting. Maybe they circle back. But the one thing that really seems to be heating up is Boston, right? And they've been one of those teams that we've talked about for a while. Pretty early on, even when they weren't really reported, like, oh, Boston can make sense. You moved Devers to first. Then some stuff heated up about Nato being like wanting to go to Boston. Then we got like some stuff on Twitter, whether it's like the Cardinals live stuff or there's a lot of stuff from Boston side of things where there's reporters asking them about like, hey, what about Arenado? That's where more meat came from, because you've got I don't know if you read the quotes, Andrew, from Trevor Story and from Alex Cora. But Alex Cora was asked about the idea of Arenado. He said he's a good relationship with him, but didn't want to comment specifically on him. And then the next guy asked him, well, hypothetically, if you required a right-handed bat who plays third base, what would you do? And he was like, well, we're open. We want to improve our team. And if that would become a real possibility, we would talk to Rafi about it. Then they went and talked to Trevor Story. And Trevor Story was like, hey, like if you have a chance, he didn't name the name, but he said, if you have a chance to, or I think he was asked directly about Nato. And he said, if you have the chance to potentially add a Hall of Fame player, you do it, or you at least can strongly consider it. And then he was asked about Nato specifically, and he was like, yes, I would love for it to happen. Let me find the direct quote real quick. This is from Trevor Story. Used to play with him in Colorado. He says, this is a unique opportunity. We do have a really good third baseman in Rafi Devers, so that obviously would be up to someone else to figure out how it works. That's not my job to talk about. But obviously, just the chance of an Arenado trade happening is exciting, I think, for everyone, because I've played with him a lot. He's as good as it gets, and the intensity he brings to his team is really beneficial. I think he would thrive in Fenway. I feel like there's a lot of smoke with Boston right now, Andrew. What say you?
I'm Bloom. Sign Trevor Story for this moment.
What if?
But
he knew.
He got a lot of flack for that signing, as he probably should, because
wait, hold up. Did we get rid of it?
Yeah,
we don't have the Bluminati.
Wait, is it not there anymore?
No, we just had the.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Maybe we have to add the Bluminati back.
Yeah, maybe. But someone got mad at us for that. But anyway, I think it makes sense. I don't know. The Reds, I don't think anything is going to happen until Alex Bregman signs. And I think that's what we're really waiting on for any of these rumors to circle back on, because I think Boston would be interested in Alex Bregman. It's just that, like, Alex Bregman, I don't know. To me, Alex Bregman seems like and this is just like pure like feel. It seems like the type of like those infielders that will kind of flame out after that kind of contract, like a Carlos Correa or um Story or like a Dansby Swanson, or he's not as bad as Dansby Swanson or like Rendon or like some of those guys, but I just feel like the peripherals don't look great. He played at Houston.
Shohei Ohtani, that deal is pretty tough.
If he doesn't pitch, they're saying he's not going to pitch until May, and I'm like, why? Like his elbow's been fine for like the last 3 months. I don't know, whatever. But he just seems like the kind of contract that wouldn't go well. And Ben Verlander tweets every day that he wants the Tigers to sign Alex Bregman. I was like, I guess you just don't like the Tigers very much. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't think he would do well at that stadium or in that environment. But maybe, I guess Boston's a little bit more right-handed hitter friendly. So maybe that's what they're doing, and they're waiting on his price to come down. And if they don't get him, then they'll pivot to Arenado. But it feels like that is what we've been waiting on to happen, and I want that to happen. Like, sure. I see the last real big free agent that hasn't, other than
Pete Alonso.
Oh, okay, well, Pete Alonso's not very good.
He's going to go to the Mets on a multiple opt-out deal, I bet.
Yeah, or the Angels, and he's going to be terrible, and it's going to be funny. But yeah,
I would hate it, but I can see him being a Cub.
That's fine. Go overpay him. That's great.
Yeah, true. But just that personality in Chicago, I would not like Pete Alonso on the Cubs.
Yeah. Give him the Prince Fielder contract and see what
happens. I would love to see that.
But I mean, it'll probably go better than the Prince Fielder contract for different reasons, but it probably still won't go well. I don't know. I hope I don't even know. I honestly, I think it's fine if they keep him. If they keep him, first of all, their payroll is lower than it has been in years already without trading him.
Yeah.
And if that incentivizes them to trade Fedde, I think that they could get way more back for Fedde.
True.
And Fedde is probably way less valuable of a piece than Arenado could be at his peak. And I mean, I'm not sure, I understand he's blocking Sajc or whoever, but there's a way to make this work, and someone will get hurt, right? Someone's bound to get hurt. And if you put Nootbaar in center, then there's a spot for everyone to play, really. And Sajc, I don't know if he's viewed as the starting third baseman of the future. And I don't think he was going to start, even if Arenado wasn't on the team. You just get more time as a bench utility player. And I definitely I understand the clubhouse thing, and I think he's working on that, trying to get closer to some of the young guys, and he doesn't really have to be the leader of this team. I feel like there's other, the young guys are getting older, they have more experience, and it's not really as necessary as it was 2 years ago in 2023 when there was an actual vacuum and there were a lot of first, second year players, and these guys have played 2 more seasons, and it should be okay. And it makes, if the team really wants to be competitive and have a marketable player, I guess that works. And I don't totally hate the idea of having him on the roster next year.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last time. It's not the end of the world to have Nato on the team next year, but I do think it's not ideal. Because I mean, you're right, they can make it work. And honestly, next year, if Nato's on the team, he should not be playing every day. I'm not saying he's not an everyday, I mean, more of he's not playing 150 games next year, 155. Bring him down to 130, give him more off days, give him a lot more DH days, all that kind of stuff, and let him just get him more rest. I don't know if he'll let you want to do it, but you control the lineup. And honestly, it might incentivize him to take a trade elsewhere if he wants to play all the time. I'm not doing the whole Bernie thing where he's bench him, but get Sajc in there, get Burleson in there more as possible. But it does have ramifications because they want to see Gorman try to grow at third base. That's not really going to happen every day. He goes back to second.
I don't get that. Gorman should be a second base or a DH. There's no reason to.
Well, I don't hate it. I just think he's not as good there, but we'll see. But then Donovan doesn't have a home anymore, so he's the placeholder DH, but moves all around, and Burleson doesn't play every day anymore then, or at least against righties. So JC gets less playing time. It does have ramifications. I do want to talk about that hypothetical trade that's been thrown out there from many different people now at this point. It was like Nado, Cash, Ivan Herrera, and Helsley for Tristan Casas and Crawford. And even if you took out Helsley, first of all, I don't want to give up Ivan Herrera. He was your second best hitter last year.
Ollie does. That's the one thing I don't like about Ollie is that. And honestly, maybe we should ask him that over the weekend. But
yeah, we're gonna have to ask him in a probably not that kind of way. But
yeah, but like you could just ask him what he thinks of Ivan Herrera and how he's progressed, and I don't know.
Yeah,
but
or I guess what the catching dynamic will look like. That is a good question that we need to ask. But I love Ivan Herrera. I think he's great. And how many times have we seen catching prospects come up and not be that good? Like, we all know that prospects are prospects until they're players. Like, we all know that you never know what's going to happen with them. But like, catchers are even more so in that. How, like, Carson Kelly, and I mean, I'm blanking on a bunch of names right now. I mean, you look, someone pulled it up the other day where they did like the top 10 catching prospects in baseball like 3 years ago, and like the only one who's been like any kind of good is what's his face, Alvarez from the Mets, and even then he hasn't really lived up to being a top 5 prospect in all of baseball. I think you keep Herrera. And Jimmy Crooks, I like him. I like the idea of him. Leonardo Bernal, Ryan Campos, like they've got catching depth. That is so true. But we have not seen what they could do in St. Louis yet. And I don't think you should be like, oh, Crooks is really good in Double-A, so that means they could trade Ivan Herrera now. I'm like, nah, let's pause on that. Especially with Contreras being a first baseman now, unless they planned on moving him back to catcher, then like whatever. I guess if you're telling me there's a world where like they're never going to play Ivan Herrera like they should, then it's like, okay, if you're not going to use him like you should, then maybe you use his trade value. But that's the only argument I think for like trading Herrera is it's like, well, if you're not going to start him every day, if he's going to be the backup catcher, and other teams value him, then I guess go get something. But I would much rather have his bat lineup as much as possible. And then see what happens. And if Jimmy Crooks is really good and ready to play in St. Louis next year, figure it out next year. And maybe Pages is the one to go because he's probably the worst catcher. But this is beside the point. But I mean, I don't mind adding Casas. Like, it's a good hitter, but like also he's not like a great defensive first baseman. I think like 2 years ago he had a 130 WRC plus, but was like a 1 WAR player because of how bad he was defensively. And you got to be really good hitting at first base, like really, really good to produce. Cutter Crawford's fine. Could be, I mean, he's interesting, but I don't want to give up all of that. So I'd rather trade Arenado and eat money and get nothing in return than attach Ivan Herrera and Ryan Helsley and get a weird return. How'd you feel about it?
I think it's weird to trade Ivan Herrera when Wilson Contreras is at first base. And I guess if you get Casas, he moves back. But like, can we stop with that? Like, that's terrible. Like, stop moving Contreras back and forth from catcher. Just decide what he is and then just keep him there for the rest of his time here. And like Crawford, I think is intriguing and definitely like he's a Chaim Bloom guy. So like if Chaim Bloom likes him, then maybe he'll do something and he could be like a lot better of a starter. And like that's okay. I don't know about attaching Helsley to that. And I don't know. Like it's a weird trade. I don't think either side would agree to it. And I don't think it's going to happen. It seems like there's too many pieces for it to like work for both sides, and you have to move Contreras back and all those sorts of things that I'm tired of, and the organization's probably tired of it as well.
Yeah, we'll see. And also like Ivan Herrera's arm is a real issue. Like Pedro Pages hasn't necessarily been all that great either behind the plate. So I don't think it's like we should be like celebrating. I think when they try to hype up Pages as being the end all,
I think he was
catching world
when this happened during this stolen base.
He probably was. When they act like he's the end all be all and he's just so much better. I think if I remember right, the starters had a run better ERA with Pages behind the plate versus Herrera and Contreras last year. But if Herrera does make the arm strength improvement changes this offseason, that might change their opinion. I hope it does, and maybe him getting to catch more frequently and be like instead of it being Contreras is clearly the starter and Ivan is clearly the backup, and Pages is kind of pushing for it. Now they're both clearly the timeshare guys, and so maybe I don't know, maybe that helps him build relationships with the starters a little bit more. Again, you're getting some of those young starters that he came up with in the minor leagues to some extent too that are starting to be up there. So like there's that advantage too, but so is Pages. I just really hope they come to their senses this year, especially of all years when the pitching or the offense was so bad last year. It's like, how of all years did you not be like, yeah, we should probably start Ivan Herrera? Because like they were starting Contreras at catcher when they didn't like him defensively either. And I know he got better, but like, and I don't know, they're weird. The Cardinals are weird. That's my one. That's why the one.
Yeah.
Wilson
Contreras was catching that game, so
tough.
Whatever.
The one thing about Ollie the thing I probably the most hard disagree with Ollie on is the Herrera Pages side of things, but whatever. So I think we solved all the Cardinals' problems today. Just extend Donovan and trade Nato and play Herrera, and the world is a better place. Maybe sign a couple guys. So, hey, they are apparently interested in shopping. Mo did say they're looking for a right-handed bat and a setup man, someone that kind of replace Kittrich's role. So,
what is a right-handed bat? Like who?
I think it's center field.
Oh, okay.
Because Scott and Ciani both are below league average hitters, but then you put them against lefties and it's even worse. And they could not hit. The whole lineup was pretty bad against left-handed pitching last year. So, like whether it's a Harrison Bader type
center fielder who could hit left-handed pitching.
See, for this year it'd be great, but long term, I don't think Tommy's worth paying that money to for this.
Well, he wouldn't get that money because he wouldn't have popped off.
The money wasn't just because he popped off in the postseason.
I feel like it was because there was like national media was talking about Tommy Edman for like 3 weeks in the playoffs.
Yeah, the Dodgers aren't like they're smarter than that to just get baited by a week or two run.
Well, yeah, I think he is like that good of a player, but I don't think the Cardinals could have got him for less because he wouldn't have done that,
I really don't think it inflated.
Like that tends to happen. Like Patrick Corbin got a massive extension because he was really good in the playoffs.
He also was really good leading up to that too. It wasn't like
he wasn't that good.
But okay, I think he finished top. I mean, I don't think that year necessarily, but I think he's had some pretty high finishes in like Cy Young and All-Star years and all that kind of stuff.
Like Jordan Montgomery got that too. Like, and
he also had a really good season leading up to that. Yeah, the year before, or the first year, or actually, I don't know when he signed his deal, but he's been a two-time All-Star, finished fifth in Cy Young voting. Probably the year, because he got signed by the Nationals. The year he got signed by the Nationals, I think he sign with the Nationals from the Diamondbacks.
I thought he got traded and then he signed.
He might have gotten traded, but it was an All-Star and finished fifth in Cy Young voting in 2018, and then finished 11th in 2019. Oh yeah, and then was good in the playoffs, got the extension, and was bad. So, anyways, where was I going with all this? Yes, also I see some questions. We do post episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, all the kinds of podcast stuff. So if you can't watch on YouTube, you can always listen there too. Like and subscribe. If you're watching now or watching later, again, subscribe to the channel, like or rate and subscribe on whatever audio platform you listen to. But Bader is an interesting retread to me. He could play every day, or he could be your kind of part-time with. I don't think he should. Like, I think if he's up, Scott should be in AAA. He's the everyday guy. Ciani plays some. But you also could go like the Austin Hayes route. Like in some of the other guys, Garrett Hampson, which I think he can play center and infield. So that might be an interesting one to kind of be the bat. Like that could be an interesting part-time role because you only need a guy to play like shortstop
really
10 times a year. Oh, go for it.
Dylan Carlson.
No. He does hit left-handed pitching though.
That's what I'm saying. Imagine if they did that.
I don't think Ollie would want him back. So let's be honest. So, anyways, well, appreciate you listening. Again, it is January 12th. We're trying to figure things out too. Hey, we'll be at Winter Warm Up this weekend. Andrew and I will be in the media room and covering I'll be there Saturday and Monday. I don't know if Andrew's being there all 3 days or not.
I'll be there all 3 days.
Cool. So think we'll try and record episodes. Don't should go to KBO. Probably should. We'll try and record episodes during the weekend and reaction, because there always is good tidbits from winter warm up. If you plan to be in winter warm up, comment on YouTube, message us, let us know. We'd love to try and meet up with you. We do have different times where we got to be available for the media session, so we'll have to coordinate and see what times are available. We'll try to post the schedule of when we're available once we get our schedule. Yeah, hope to meet some of you guys there. Again, like and subscribe, helps channel a ton. Go check out 3 and 4 Sports Cards and Collectibles. Please go check Underdog Fantasy and use our code. I said our code Josh, our code Cards.
You do have your own code, Josh. We're not promoting it though. It's not.
Everyone has their own code technically. But yeah, use our promo code Cards. And again, you're able to play in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, Illinois. I don't know about Indiana and other stuff like that, but for sure Missouri and Illinois. Whatever. It's fine. Whatever. Yeah, use our promo code Cards. A lot of playoff games this weekend, stuff to do. Again, you get a first time free bet and or free pick, and you get a first time deposit for up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So we always appreciate the support. Thanks all for hanging out and listening. Like and subscribe, helps the channel a ton, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Sandy.
Thanks.